Hello, this is LearnHall.com's Michael Hoft. I would love to share a sample course with you, and there's small snippets, small pieces of writing an essay, and then as we develop the and work through the course, we start to really shape and write and take a look at closely an actual essay. We have multiple ones, but for sure there will be one that we're going to cover in this class. Um, this is a really important one, and it's pretty simple. You want to use synonyms of the word shows. You want to vary your word choice in general, vary your sentence structure in general, and in terms of writing a research slash literary analysis paper, whether it's for an English class or history class, political science, etc. You want to introduce the quote. You want to insert the quote, right? Drop the quote via text, or drop the quote in the essay. And then the most important is you want to discuss or analyze the quote. That's really important. Here's where you get to show your sophistication, show your quality of how well you've really looked closely at this line, at this word, at this passage, essentially. So let's talk about these synonyms. So after you drop a quote in there, you could say this quote shows that blah blah blah, the author blah blah blah, or the narrator blah blah blah, right? This quote proves that, this quote displays, this quote conveys, this quote exemplifies, this quote typifies, this quote illustrates. There are obviously a whole bunch of these words that you could use. Let's look at an actual essay. This is the actual essay that we're going to go over in this course, and it's based on a poem, but let's just go over these words briefly. So early in the poem, the speaker conveys the connectedness of Manhattan's masses by writing the following, right? So that now I'm introducing the quote, right? Then I'm going to insert the quote. From the houses then and the workshops and through all the doorways leapt they tumultuous and lo, Manhattan army. Lines 24 through 25. This is a Walt Whitman poem called Drum Taps, and it's the thesis is where I talk about how, and we'll talk about the thesis in a separate video, but it's where the speaker emphasizes the positives of war and doesn't talk a lot about the negatives of war and doesn't highlight those. That's the whole thesis. And so every point that I'm trying to make where I'm discussing a quote and analyzing a quote has to show, the reader that I'm defending that thesis statement. Specifically, I'm defending that argument. So right here, so the speaker seems to excitedly, so some teachers would rather you not say seems to. You could say the speaker excitedly exclaims. But what I'm saying is seems to, because excitedly, just because there's an exclamation mark, that sort of implies that it's excitedly, but it's not for sure excitedly. I mean, it could be considered excitedly, and it might be smart, might be more confident to delete that and just put the speaker excitedly exclaims that these people blah blah blah. But I'm trying to weave into a bunch of points. I'm making like 3, 4, 5 points, and so I'm trying to kind of ease into that. So I'm like, the speaker seems to excitedly exclaim that these people leapt from the houses and the workshops, as opposed to leaping from their houses and their workshops, from their houses and their workshops. Here, Whitman's choice of using the instead of their highlights. All right, so that's going to be highlights. Bonds amongst these people, while also minimizing. This is the contrast of the word highlights. The speaker shuns individuality through his word choice. So you could say that, shuns. So you could use positives and negatives, or you could use synonyms of the word shows, like displays, highlights, right? Let's write that. This quote highlights, right? Synonyms and antonyms. So synonyms mean the same thing, antonyms mean the opposite of. So that's really crucial, is that we're going to have sometimes words that contrast something positive, right? Where it's highlighting it, or it's showing this, or it's proving that. So it might say, well, this quote minimizes. This quote shows that, that this is minimized, right? The speaker shuns individuality through his word choice, right? That's a contrast. Instead, celebrating which further conveys, there it is, there's conveys the emphasis on community and shared experiences. Now, we don't need to know all this stuff because we're not going to go over the whole paper right now, but essentially you're seeing that I dropped in, these various word choices that help to add pizzazz and color to the paper, as opposed to using the same thing. Here, Whitman's choice of using the instead of there proves that the bonds, or shows the bonds among the city's people, while also hiding, let's say we said showing or hiding, or showing or minimizing, right? The speaker hides individuality through his word choice. Instead, showing the collectivist. If it just kept saying showing, 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 it just gets boring, gets really drab really fast, right? It's like using really, right? You don't want to use really in a paper, or very, right? Maybe once in a blue moon, but by and large, you don't want to use it. It's the same way in terms of word choice. And so we want to vary these words, which further conveys the emphasis on community and shared experiences, as opposed to the uniqueness of any of the people described in the poem with regards to this war that has Manhattanites arming themselves. Okay, so you see a lot of these words that are synonyms and or antonyms of shows. So hopefully this lesson is helpful, and we're going to go over a lot more lessons where we cover specific traits of a really high quality essay, and then we'll put it all together and we'll show you guys how to write a really good paper. And this will help you for any communication. Most importantly, and most urgently rather, most specifically, it'll be in English papers, like a literary analysis paper on like a poem or a book or whatnot. But it can help you for a myriad of venues: history classes, political science classes, psychology, sociology, philosophy. Can help you, if you're an attorney, if you're trying to write a letter to the editor, if you're trying to write a letter to a company, if you're trying to write a letter to your congressman, if you're trying to apply to colleges, trying to apply to jobs. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. Obviously, emails, a lot of opportunities. So hopefully this is helpful. Thank you very much.